Singles seem to get a good response, so that's cool
Nice.
on the
Yeah.
interwebs.
Uh, yeah, that was a long time coming, I guess. When did we record?
Like
Was that like
March, around
March?
maybe, maybe not.
I thought it wasn't all that long ago.
No, maybe it was like I don't know. I can't even remember. I feel like this year has
Yeah.
been really, really, really long.
Yeah, I really fucking feel that. I remember the memes coming out like 3 or 4 weeks into January, and it was like 4 weeks into 2021.
Mm.
And there's all these events that happened. One of them was GameStop,
Yeah,
one of them was the Capitol.
yeah.
Um, I don't
Those are
remember.
the big ones.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the ones that people still talk about sometimes. But yeah, it was an exciting start, but well, I guess things are still happening. Things won't stop happening.
Hmm. Well, I mean, people are just getting more involved in their own lives, which is good for people to get back to normal. But I definitely think that might be why is everyone's like less on they're less inside anymore and on their phone and seeing it. So I mean, I personally think that's a good thing. But it's
Right.
also it also could be a slippery slope because then people could just not be looking at things like the news anymore because we're having too much fun now because all the COVID stuff is lifted. So it's like got to find that balance between being informed and also not being too informed,
Yeah,
and also being informed with the right sources
right.
too.
That's the hardest. It's like I'm kind of struggling with like, is there any way to actually be informed?
Mm,
Because especially like last year, kind of finding out that like how manipulative
mm-hmm.
the like every source of information around us is.
Yeah.
And so I feel like what you're saying is true. Like people, I hope more people have kind of just like stepped back and try to just like live their life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's making us kind of be like less reactionary
Mm-hmm.
to like things that happen. Like things are going to continue to happen, but like we don't need to like show everyone like, oh, we have a reaction to this
Right.
and this is what it is. I think that's kind of better.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
It was cool. Me and Jana went to Lake Tahoe last weekend
Yeah. How was
for
that?
my birthday. It was cool, and it was nice to see just like families on
Mm-hmm.
vacation. As weird as that is, normally that's super annoying,
Right.
but but it was just cool to see that like yeah, these kids are having a good time and like
Yeah.
these families are connecting. I don't know, something about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the world's in a slightly better state, it feels, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
No,
just where we were.
I get that. I've been skating a lot recently and I'll go early in the morning when no one's there. And a couple days ago I went and usually I'd be annoyed if there were like 10 kids under the age of 10 there
Wow.
because there was, and apparently they have a class in the mornings to teach kids how to skate.
Oh,
I didn't know that. And usually I'd be kind of annoyed, but I just like I don't know. It was cool to see, and I still skated, so I felt a little weird, but like just zooming through all these like little kids, but um, it was still fun. Uh, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like seeing things back to normal is kind of comforting.
yeah.
Finally,
Seeing families together without masks on.
yeah, yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah, it's cool. I always feel bad when the kids are muzzled, just like
yeah,
on a hot day or something on a
yeah.
field trip. Like when you see that, like, oh shit,
Well, that's a good
not right.
word for it because I'm sure they feel muzzled. Like, that's probably exactly how they
Yeah.
feel.
Well, lots of kids they wanna wear the masks now because well, not exclusively because they're scared. Sometimes they just think it's cool. Like a 5-year-old has like an Iron Man mask or
Yeah,
something. I'm
yeah,
gonna wear
Yeah.
that shit.
It's like
yeah.
it's their favorite character.
Right.
If it's like Frozen, if it's anything, they're gonna
Yeah.
want to wear it.
Give me the SpongeBob mask. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just looking at a picture of my little niece with like a cat mask on,
Oh.
like the nose and like the whiskers.
Yeah.
Cute. But
Dang.
it's also like, no need to wear that.
Right. I just have the black one, the boring black one. I should have gotten a cool mask.
Yeah.
The trend's out now, man. It's too late.
Yeah.
Soon enough, everyone's gonna be out in their purge masks, ski mask and a hockey mask. And no, I'm just kidding.
there's a new dude, they're gonna turn into the new Saw movies. There's gonna be like a 17 Purge movies. They're coming out with another one.
Yeah.
And they just keep getting worse and worse and worse. The first one was fine. They should have stopped. Like a lot of horror movies. They should have stopped. But
How many
Yeah.
are there now?
I think it's like 5 or 6.
Wow, I've completely missed all of those.
I saw the first one and then the second one, and then the second one was like it involved people inside of a house, so it was kind of different. The first one was like the whole city. You saw what was going on in the city. The second one is just contained in one house or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I
So
don't
they
I
kill
do what?
each other? Do they kill
Yeah,
and eat?
yeah. Something like that. And I have no idea what happens in the rest of them. Probably just a lot of violence.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. It's kind of like, oh, this is kind of a coolish idea.
Mhm.
Let's make 18 movies
Right.
about it, following up. And that's how Saw was. Like the original Saw movie was really clever, I thought, and
Yeah.
kind of smart and poignant for the time. And they made it on a small budget, and they came up with like a cool idea
Mhm.
that's actually viable on a small budget. And then, yeah, like then they have Saw 3D and Saw 4D and Saw on Mars or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just that's how everything goes.
Yeah.
I remember like when I was a kid, like you go to the movie store
Mhm.
and like before, I don't know, at least for me, before I was allowed to watch most of the horror movies, like I was a lot younger, you would see like all of the Freddy movies
Mhm.
or Nightmare on Elm Street
Mhm.
or the Jason movies. And
Mhm.
I just remember there'd be like 12. There'd be like,
Jason
I don't
goes
know,
to
Jason goes,
hell.
yeah, Jason goes to hell, Jason goes to space.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa. And when you're a kid, you don't know that that's trash. You're just like, this is the coolest. Which, I don't know, some adults are really into that stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
Who knows?
remember the Ernest movies? Like
Yeah,
Ernest?
aren't there like a bunch of those too?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
There
Ernest
was
goes to like I don't know, all
I don't
kinds of
remember
stuff.
there being like 3 of those.
there
There,
was like an Ernest at Halloween
Mm,
one. And that was like the only scary movie I saw as a kid. A scary movie.
yeah.
It really scared me. I hated it a lot. But Ernest is like this like dopey comedic character, so it was stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of want to watch one now. I haven't seen one since I was a little kid.
I don't think it would hold up,
I don't think it
but
would either.
interesting.
yeah.
It's funny how back then that's how people just generated content. They were like, "Well, we got 10 movies to make. We got this star. We're going to make a bunch." And now it's like
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah,
No.
now kids, I don't know what kids are watching nowadays, like Gossip Girl or some shit.
Well, I say that and now I'm like, well, Jurassic World is coming out again. There's like another Jurassic
Yeah.
dinosaur. Like,
Right.
it maybe is never. It maybe will never change. Actually.
Now it's just like you take the old story, but you make a different character that's like younger and hotter.
Yeah.
Now you just redo the movie.
Yeah. It's kind of unfortunate.
I saw, it reminds me, I saw a Quentin Tarantino interview recently,
Mhm.
and he's saying that now, like this decade,
I think I
is
saw the
kind
same
of
one.
like, yeah, it's kind of like a do-over of the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas like everyone is
Yup.
self-censoring and just the shittiest content is being rehashed
Yep.
again and again.
Well, and that's kind of
Yeah.
why then he was talking about how people in other countries were completely different in the 80s and a lot of people who wanted, you know, not the super, dare I say it, like PC art, like overly PC, you know what I'm saying? Like, they would they would branch out to like Japan or Germany or whatever, like their media. So I've been kind of thinking about maybe doing the same, like trying to find other countries that are coming out with stuff that doesn't align with America's political climate right now.
Yeah, you could get into K-pop.
Yeah, yeah. I've been listening to city pop, which is like Japanese 80s music.
Yeah,
But I guess that's a different era. It's not right
Sounds
now,
sick.
but it's really good.
it's a sunset roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that band is cool. I've been listening to a lot of like electronica
Mm.
and
Sybient,
Cybe. I don't even know if these are
Cybe.
real genres.
like ambient, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
like psychotic.
Mostly,
Okay.
I would say it's mostly like electronic music that's nostalgic
Okay.
for the 80s or for the 90s,
Okay.
like that type of stuff. But just stuff that I listen to while I work.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird. I was never into almost anything electronic
Mm.
as a teenager or in my early 20s, but it's cool. I'm kind of gaining an appreciation for it, but I also understand the aspects of it that I don't like and the very mainstream stuff that comes on. Well, it's like nowadays you'll hear what sounds like to me most pop songs, they sound like EDM,
Mm.
like just modern EDM produced songs with the star singing,
Yeah.
four lines in the chorus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Wilson is freaking out. I don't know. You
It's
can
all
hear the
good.
meows in the background.
I'm surprised you can't hear my cat. She was freaking out earlier.
Really.
But yeah, I mean, I've tech like electronic music. I always thought metal had a bunch of subgenres. Electronic music is a whole new like beast. Like just
Yeah.
all the subgenres there are. It's kind of crazy. But I really like just like house music, like old 90s house and kind of Euro. It's called like Euro dance, I think, or something, which is like, you know, what are some songs? Very, very recognizable, like 90s party songs. Kind of almost very cheesy, actually.
I
Um,
was looking for that exact thing last night to listen to, but the best I could come up with was like a Grease
mm,
dance party mix. It
yeah.
was
I think, um, like the song "What Is Love" from like SNL. Do y'all remember that? Like doing the
Yeah.
headbutt, like shit like that, and like "Be My Lover." Um, yeah, I don't know. I like that stuff a lot, but I want to find the modern equivalent. Like
yeah,
I don't know if it does exist, but not on a grand scale like it did in 1995 or something.
yeah. Like you want to find that music that you just like can't help but dance to, and it
Yeah,
just like makes you happy, and it's
yeah,
just like infectious.
yeah,
That's what I was looking for yesterday.
yeah. I can send y'all some playlists. My
All right.
Spotify has slowly morphed from like metal and punk and hip hop to just like electronic music over the last year.
Yeah. Are you making some beats as well?
Yeah, yeah, I've been trying. Actually, Colton and I have been talking about working together on some music soon, so we might see what that is gonna look like. I'm kind of nervous, but just because it's new territory and everything,
Yeah.
and never
Yeah.
really messed with, or I have been messing with it for a while, but not on like a serious, like
Right. Like not
with
putting it out.
intention. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And so we might try and do something like that soon by the end of the year. If all goes
Yeah.
to plan.
It's cool. I've been listening to, or not listening to as much, more of just following this guy who's goes under the name Meaning Wave, and he does like this. I think I might have talked about this before actually, but
Meaning wave.
Meaning Wave,
Okay.
yeah. Uh, he does like there's like old philosophy or Alan Watts lectures or stuff like that. Like he'll
Oh.
take the audio and he'll mix it in with like lo-fi beats.
Yeah, I think you did talk about that. I remember that
Yeah,
now.
it's pretty cool. But he just released like a bunch of Epictetus, which is a Stoic philosopher, like a bunch of his writings, like into lo-fi beats,
What do
songs,
those
like videos.
visuals look like for that? Because it's not just the music. He also like makes crazy visuals for it as well.
Yeah, yeah. Like it started out, he just had the basic, like the people who release the lo-fi beats and the playlists and the electronic stuff. Like a lot of them, they'll get GIFs
Hmm.
or like clips of video footage and put it in there, or just an image to make it like aesthetically pleasing. And
Mm.
you see how it evolves. And like now, it seems like he's at the point where he's able to make full-fledged music videos each time.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's in that same style of uh, like washy VHS, like low res, but with, you know,
With like
animations in the
accents,
background or like anime.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
psychedelic colors and stuff like that.
That's sick. I've seen something a little. I think I know what you're talking. The version I've seen before is kind of like beats that are similar to like MF Doom, and they but instead of things like that, they would just put old like Ed and Eddie cartoons like over
Oh,
it, like just like cartoon references, because I mean that's what MF Doom did a lot, was use cultural like cartoon snippets in his music. And so I think I've seen something a little similar to what y'all, but I'm gonna check that out. I'm writing it down right now.
Every
yeah.
time I see like I run into content like that that's just like has like layers of references in it, like
Hmm.
cultural references, and is also just like super specific to like a certain mood or like type of feeling that it like reproduces.
Yeah.
Just like there's no other time where anything like this could exist.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
That kind of reminds me. I was talking to Eric Claxon recently about like he was asking me, what do you think is going to be the next kind of wave of like music, art, whatever? And I kind of told him like I don't really know if there is going to be any more waves. Like it's kind of hard to, it seems like the internet provides like a way for us to just exist in certain pockets of history in a weird way. Like things
It's like
that people,
everyone's fragmented.
yeah, yeah, like you can get a
Yes.
little bit of every era right now, especially during quarantine, that we kind of just like were forced to just do that. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm sure there will be really big stuff that comes out in the future and is popular for like 5 years, but uh,
Yeah.
it it may dwindle more. I don't know. It's
I think
interesting to
like
think about.
I think popular culture will probably become more like drug friendly again.
Mm, yeah,
Pretty
yeah, yeah, because it's becoming just so like destigmatized.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wonder if we'll get to a point where there's a generation in the future that's like, all right, we need to get drugs back off the market. Like I wonder if it'll just have like that
Right.
constant like,
The full cycle.
yeah, the 60s everyone was tripping and doing
Right.
drugs and they were groovy and everything, and like and then the 70s and 80s everyone was like nah,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's kind of cycling back. And yeah, I mean, it's totally possible.
Well, there's a lot of people, like the people that were at the head of the psychedelic movement, especially LSD movement. They wanted to, or they believed that society would be better, or people would be better if they used
Hmm.
these compounds and had the experiences gained from them. And if you actually question that and think like, what would happen, like if we could all use any psychedelics in a safe context with like appropriate dosage and all of that, and it was encouraged, it like wasn't stigmatized in the culture. What would really be the result of that?
Hmm.
Like in the 60s, they imagined, I, I'm not quite sure what they imagined, but like now I think about the technology we have. It's like, what is a generation on psychedelics, generation of young people on psychedelics? What do they look like when they're on social media and using VR
Hmm.
and spending like a majority of their time interacting in video games or making TikToks and like trying to perform and
Hmm.
keep up their digital image? Like, I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it just makes me think that a lot of that energy would naturally pour into the digital realm.
Hmm.
Uh,
It'd probably
but
make it a slightly better place. I
yeah,
think
I hope so.
maybe it would give people a sense of maybe a little more respect. uh,
Yeah, or like, yeah, respect for
just
the
each
world.
other. Yeah, and the world. Yeah, like, because I mean, like I was saying, I was skating with a bunch of kids that day. Like, those kids are rude. And it's just crazy. Maybe I'm just getting older and I'm becoming that person that's like, ah, these damn kids. But for some reason, it feels like like young kids are just like saying whatever
They're
they
more
want,
brash.
which is fine. Like,
Oh,
like, but like there was a crawdad at the skate park, like a little shrimp guy, like
yeah.
and because it's been raining nonstop here, and it started walking into the path of like people skating, and so I went over and I was kind of like pushing with my foot back into the water, and a kid just came up. He's like, "Pick it up, you wuss!" So I picked it up and I've shoved it in his face, and he ran away. But um, yeah, I
You
was
had
just
to
like,
defend yourself.
damn, I would have never said that to some older dude at a skate park, like
Yeah. No, that's true. That kid had balls for sure. It
it was funny.
there was actually this kid at that was in like my company's office, and he was selling like an 11-year-old kid, and he was selling cheesecake in a cup to people. Well, he apparently the president of our company is walking around on his phone, like on a call, and this kid just goes up to him and he's like, "Hey, mister, like I'm selling," and just like in the middle of the phone call, just like, "Hey, mister, I'm selling some cheesecake in a cup. Do you want some?" And then he asks like, "Well, how much is it?" And the kid says something like, it's actually the end of the day, so they're $10 now or something." Or I'll give
I
you three of them
figured
for $20.
$10. Oh
Say what?
wow. So I figured you were gonna say $10. I don't know why.
I
Just
don't
remember.
remember. It might have been $5, but he basically said like, "Oh, it's going to be more expensive actually, or I'll sell you three for
Hustling.
15 bucks or
Yeah.
something." And he
Yeah.
was like, "Wow, okay." And
Got
he was
it.
just so impressed with the
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Out
Yeah,
there
like
hustling the cheesecake.
yeah, he came to the right place where a bunch of like fucking rich tech people are.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I wonder how much money he made, but yeah, it says something if you're sometimes if you engage in the world like that, like you don't give any fucks,
Mm-hmm.
then that gives you a huge advantage.
Yeah.
But
Can
most of the
also give you a
time,
disadvantage too.
yeah,
In
most
some
of the time,
people.
people who are jerks or like really forceful like that, I feel like things don't work out.
Yeah. Well, it's like you have a certain expect once you like learn that, oh, I can get what I want sort of if I like am assertive, then you'll meet someone eventually who was either that person before and they've changed, or they just have a strong will, so they're just kind of like it doesn't affect them, and then that person who's trying to be assertive is like, I'm not getting what I want, and then it's like, what do they do then, like
Yeah,
how do you achieve your goal without, once you meet that person that doesn't let you do that or whatever.
And I don't know. I feel like assertive people do a lot better right now because it's like about upholding an image of yourself.
Hmm.
I feel like that kind of goes into like, well, you're more successful right now because it's about like upholding an image of yourself.
Hmm.
So everyone's like putting their brand out there for everyone to see, and it's like as long as you're believing it yourself, like no one's really gonna. They're
Hmm.
just gonna be like, oh, I guess they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's less people like me right now who like kind of see through that.
Yeah.
And when I see through that, I just like don't mess with those people.
Right.
But
Right.
then they're still successful because like other
Right.
people will.
Yeah. 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 No, I I can resonate with that too. I see it all the time, and it's hard to like not want to fall into it at the same time
Yeah.
sometimes because you're like, oh, it's working for everyone else,
Yeah.
and but I know if I would do that personally, I would just like I don't know how I would feel about myself on a day to
I
day
know.
basis.
Right. It's kind of like it's getting to the point where I don't know, like I want to put my writing out into the world,
Hmm.
and I feel like the only way to do that successfully right now is to like make a brand, but
Hmm.
I really resist like
Yeah.
it's rough.
Yeah.
You gotta brand yourself.
Right. Right.
Digital internet.
Yeah.
Well, on the other side, though, it's also an opportunity that individuals haven't really had. Is like
Yeah.
you can act even though you're going on other people's channels, Facebook or Twitter's channels or the email channel, whatever channel you're on, like you can still reach a huge swath of people. And if
Yeah.
you have something to offer that people want, seemingly you can reach them and like elevate yourself out of whatever situation you're currently in.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that's the hope of what you'd want that to be, like a free market for
Right.
ideas, basically.
Because
But
you can have direct access to the market, like as an individual,
Hmm.
pretty
yeah,
easily, just like from your phone.
Hmm.
yeah, and as a consumer, direct access to the mind share of people on the internet. But the problem, the increasing problem is depending on what channel you're on,
Mm.
those ideas you're getting exposed to are getting more and more censored.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
kind of speaking on this topic, a piece of news I saw today is Starlink, which is
Hmm.
I don't know if Starlink is officially a part of Tesla or its own company. I don't know, but they've been launching, or sorry, part of SpaceX.
Hmm.
But they've been launching satellites to basically spread like Wi-Fi signal across the Earth. And apparently, I didn't know this, but how Wi-Fi connectivity signal works is that if you're higher up, you can like cover a larger area and
Oh.
have the same signal strength, I guess. So
Hmm.
like having height is actually a huge advantage for it.
Okay.
So they have 100 satellites or something like that
Hmm.
orbiting around the Earth right now.
Wow.
And in August, they're planning to like fully launch to everyone. Like there are some people that are on the beta right now, but yeah, this will supposedly make it to where anyone, even in a remote area, can have like a
Wi-Fi
solid
connection.
connection.
Wow.
Where do you
Have you guys seen Starlink yet in the
Like the
sky?
satellites?
Yeah.
you
No.
can see them?
Yeah. I've seen them twice
Oh.
now in my life.
Oh.
One night it was at a band practice, and we all started kind of low key, kind of freaking out. Like we were like, "What the fuck is that?" Because it just looked like a moving constellation. Like it was just a straight line of little dots that looked like stars, and we were like, are we being invaded right now by aliens?" Like,
Yeah.
and
I
then
think that all the time.
yeah, and I Googled it, and immediately the first thing that came up was Starlink. And then one night I was out running at my apartment, and I just saw it again. Like, just so happened to
Oh,
look up and saw something moving out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, oh shit, it's Starlink. So I
whoa.
don't know if there's probably some kind of tracker online to like show when it's gonna show up in like certain hemispheres and everything, so you can see it.
Yeah.
I bet there's an app, or there
Yeah.
should be. Someone should make that, like, because they have those apps where you can like point your phone at the sky to see where the stars are, you, even if there's too much light pollution where you are. But like if you could see, like, show me all the satellites
Yeah.
like in the sky right now, even the ones I can't see.
Oh
That would
Well,
be
man.
cool.
I know they do that for the ISS, the International Space Station. I know there's something like that on Google where you can look up where that's because that used to be the one that people would look for. Just
Yeah.
seeing it. You like
Man,
I've seen it sometimes just randomly flying through there.
there
But
should be an app for like looking up and like seeing how dense the space trash is.
Oh yeah, yeah,
There, there are like there are some tools to visualize that actually I've seen
Oh,
online, but it's not like, of course, you can't track it live. It's more of just like a simulation. Like here's how much we know is in
oh,
mm,
yeah.
orbit. Like here's how it's probably distributed across time. So it more of is just like, hey, you want to look at a 3D image of the Earth surrounded by a bunch of garbage.
mm.
Like,
So that's my question is like, how how can some of these people who like they're proponents of this idea that we need to get off this planet and like interplanetary be an interplanetary civilization, how are they going to get out whenever like the atmosphere is densely packed with like all this trash and that's going to be like a big problem?
Yeah, I've kind of wondered the same thing. We need like a trash moon.
We need like yeah, like
Like,
a trash collector bot up in the
yeah,
sky.
yeah,
yeah,
Or I
it's
guess there's like those like diamond reflective plates
yeah,
we
well,
saw
those
one
would
time that like just like stuff off
yeah.
of it. Do you remember that?
I don't remember any diamond reflecting plates, but like anything would get shattered. That's why it's a weird problem.
Mm.
Is it anything you put up there except for just like a solid hunk of iron,
Yeah,
you
Like
know, or something
rocks
that's
and
just
shit,
like, yeah, it's
meteors.
gonna get pulverized.
right.
Mm.
Um,
Man, I'd
and
be a space trash man. I wouldn't mind it. I'd be a space garbage man.
be dangerous. It'd be like being a shooting range dummy.
Yeah,
I imagine like a playlist for the space trash man.
yeah. Oh yeah. Now I gotta make one.
Space trash, space trash man
Yeah.
playlist. I like
If
that.
I ever had that job though, I'd just become a new person. I'd like get a Brooklyn accent, like just like be
Like
a trash
a
man. Like
typical janitor, but like in a spacesuit.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I'm just gonna test out my share screen and talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
how
Let's talk
the
about it.
ocean's on fire.
Yeah. So
Y'all see this? Oops.
yeah,
See if
the
I get the audio going.
it's a real Eye of Sauron right there.
It's just a
Didn't they supposedly
Uh,
extinguish it though? I thought like
I don't
same
know. I
day.
think they're still trying to extinguish it.
Let me look real quick. I want to say as soon as I looked it up, like 20 minutes after the article was posted, they said it was extinguished. But it's still like,
well, isn't that convenient?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the ocean only burned for 24 hours.
yeah,
But it's funny. Well, this isn't funny. Like this isn't. We don't want to see this happening. This isn't good. You know, pipeline burst into the ocean. But it was like all lately, all of the FUD against Bitcoin has been like how Bitcoin's going to destroy the environment and boil the oceans.
hmm,
And then it's like this is an exact side effect of the dollar or the petrodollar, you know, how it's used worldwide as a trading for oil. And like these are the actual effects of our current currency is like the ocean's literally on fire
yeah,
from from the dollar and the dollar's effects. And so yeah, it was pretty.
Like not seeing the problem that is like staring us down right now, but
yeah,
like projecting all these problems onto like future and future technologies, even though like they're happening right now. And we don't
hmm,
know how to deal with them. That's the thing.
yeah,
Well, I would argue we're discovering how to deal with them with Bitcoin, but you know, with
Yeah, still have a lot of questions to answer.
hmm.
yeah,
That's true. It does say that they extinguished it, but you know they could just be saying that too, just because it took social media by storm. You know, like everyone was talking about it yesterday, and so um, if they did extinguish it, cool. But if
They
you
just
know,
got to continue the news cycle.
yeah, yeah, it, yeah, that was scary to see. Kind of. I mean, that's an understatement, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of more words to say about it, but it's just I don't really know what to say.
Well,
Like,
what kind of, I mean, besides like Like, do you guys know what kind of like immediate damage that causes?
Um,
Like a
But
spill into the ocean?
well, this isn't actually a spill. I think it
it's like a leak of some kind. Like one of the pipes was leaking or something. I don't.
it's a spill that basically got lit on fire.
Yeah.
Um, and so I actually wonder if it's less damaging for like the ocean ecology for it to just light on fire and all of it to be vaporized right on the
Yeah.
spot. Of
Yeah.
course, everything in that area is going to get boiled and destroyed, but then versus having like oil just
Just
leaking
oil
and
in the ocean.
spreading, yeah, across the
And
ocean.
then like having the potential to burn.
Yeah, so I
So
mean, yeah, yeah, exactly. But I'm sure that is fine for the ocean, but what is it doing to like the
atmosphere.
yeah, the ozone and like all
Yeah.
that? Like I'm sure that that spiked up some heat.
Yeah.
Uh maybe not. I mean, who knows? But I can only guess that
Right.
it doesn't have good effect, but it's
There's
better
fires like
than
that all the time, though, that are like pipeline burst fires or huge, just like burn off energy.
mhm.
And this is another thing is that like Bitcoin miners are starting to use that energy, burn off energy. Like this
Mm,
is what oil producers and natural gas producers have to do when they have stranded energy that
mhm.
they can't afford to move, is they just light it off the top
Mm.
and burn it into the atmosphere. And Bitcoin can actually use that. But even like that's on purpose, but a lot of these happen on accident as well.
Mhm.
Like last weekend when me and Jana were driving back into Salt Lake City on like the south on the industrial side of the city, or I guess it's the north side or the east, west, I don't know.
The
But
West. Yeah.
west, yeah. There was
Weast.
like this factory on fire. Like we could see from far away, we were like, whoa, there's a lot of smoke. When we
Mhm.
got closer, it was just like a flamethrower just shooting out of this
Damn.
building. Like it was a huge,
Yeah.
huge, like some kind of pipeline burst or something.
Yeah.
And you
Flames
just
just
wonder
like
like how often does this happen?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and also there's been so many fires, and if you look at the
yeah.
fire map right now, like the whole west side of the United States is like
Yeah.
bursting into flames every
Yeah.
like and I it's so weird talking to my grandparents about this stuff. Like they're very, very conservative. They like still believe that Al Gore is like a piece of shit because of like like that the old early 2000s like
Yeah.
debate and shit about climate change and all that, and then they'll start talking about how like, oh, did you hear Seattle? They're having a heat wave and no one's got ACs and everything, and I'm just like, I
Yeah.
don't know what to say. I'm like, that's not normal. Like,
Yeah.
there's something going on. It's kind of awkward to talk to people
Yeah. No.
who are just still like, oh no, that's just a liberal, uh, like hoax or some bullshit. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what to say in those situations, really.
Well, this goes back to like how do you consume information or how do you stay informed? Like
Hmm.
talking about staying informed, but not staying too informed or misinformed.
Yeah.
And I think that's getting harder and close to impossible.
Yep.
Because like I remember a few years ago, I remember like 2016 talking to a lot of my friends and us kind of sharing like this idea that yeah, boomers or like older people, they just don't know how to consume internet information. They can't tell the difference between something that's obviously false
Yeah.
and then something that's, maybe more likely to be closer to the truth. And I kind of look back at that now and laugh because I'm like, how cocky I was to
Mm.
think that I could even do that.
Yeah.
Like at that point, maybe even at that point, it was already fully lost. But now at this point, I'm more skeptical than I've ever been in my whole life about most everything. And I'm more uncertain about stuff that I've held to be true for years. And I'm more uncertain as to like how do I figure out if this is true? Like how do I actually inform myself? Because more and more of like the channels for that information is being censored and like filtered.
Hmm.
Captured.
Yeah, captured really just to support certain narratives.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think COVID has been, a big
Well, it's been a great tool for that.
big driver of all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks to feel like you're being deranged or like or radicalized in any kind of way.
Yeah.
And I've really felt that as far as like I feel like I'm um feeling like angry and like resentful and rebellious
Mhm.
towards all of the official channels of communication
Yep.
or institutions that I'm supposed to trust. Like, I'm totally deranged against education and academia. I'm totally deranged against the government and the government agencies
Mhm.
and against the media and the various like big media corporations, whether it be social media or like CNN, NBC, Fox, like all of those. And it's kind of like, man, I'm running out of friends, or not even friends, but just
Right.
like mutual sources of truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like how to have conversations about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's been the toughest thing for me. When I meet people that are on the same level, just at work or something, it's like, come here, please never leave. I'm holding you close. Like, please don't leave.
yeah.
I like found there was like two coworkers of mine at um where I worked in downtown Oklahoma City.
Hmm.
Out of like the 30 of them, there was like two other people that would talk about vaccines in a non-positive light.
Hmm.
And like they became like the only people I would talk to about it. Like anytime anyone would bring it up, I'd just be like, it's crazy. But then like I'd actually talk to them. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm kind of worried that people are gonna start saying you gotta get vaccinated for shit now, but I don't know.
Vaccinated a second time. That's probably gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's crazy to me is like that seems like the flu shot, like the flu vaccination. So at that point,
Right?
I've had the flu shot twice. Both times I got the flu that
Right.
year. So it's like
Mm.
I don't know. That's my reason for not getting the COVID vaccine. I mean, just because I'm afraid that if I got the COVID vaccine, I would get COVID somehow. Like my immune system would be weakened. But I'm not a doctor, but I can just say from my personal experience of getting
No,
the
I think
flu
that's
vaccine.
yeah, no, I think that's what's gonna happen. Just like I don't think the point of this like vaccine experiment is to get rid of COVID,
Hmm.
but to just like manage it
Yeah.
so that it becomes part of our lives like indefinitely like the flu, but like that's going to be a consequence.
Yeah.
Whenever like I feel like there are people who might have better ideas on how to like overcome it rather than just like manage it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think managing it is going well.
No, I mean that's what we've been doing for years in pharmaceuticals, like just allergy medicine, like pain
That's getting too
medicine.
expensive.
Yeah, like all it does is mask the symptoms and it doesn't like fix. Like I started taking allergy medicine this year cuz they got really bad. Like I couldn't breathe and like all kinds of shit. And when I took the allergy medicine, it made it 10 times worse. And maybe my body is just like this type of body that if I take certain kind of medications, I don't know, it just like I just felt even more like shit. And it it definitely made me feel quote unquote better as in I could breathe and I could do all this, but I still had the symptoms. It was just masking
Yeah.
it, and it basically was making me okay to go into work. And so at that point, I was like, "That's a scary thought, sort of, where they're
Right.
just making things for us to take. That way, we're just able to like still make
Survive.
money and yeah, like feed money into the system, and it's kind of weird."
Yeah, for me, there's something about humans managing nature
Mm-hmm.
or humans managing complex systems where
Yeah.
I'm learning to distrust it 100% of the time. Uh, and nature is going to do things like here's a good example is when you really really try and keep wildfires from happening, like you control it. stuff actually gets more dead and more you're letting fragility build
Mhm.
up in the system
Mhm.
instead of letting it naturally just kind of break out
Mhm.
and then burn its
Yeah,
way
burn
through.
burn all
And
the excess like dead stuff. Like
yeah,
that's usually what like natural wildfires they occur just because there's too much dead things like grass and trees and timber and kindling essentially.
yeah, and nature works in different time frames than we like, and like these cycles they happen in unintuitive ways for us, but for the earth and the millions billions of years it's been around, like these it knows how to self-manage. Like these things, they just occur in natural cycles.
Mhm.
And it's not to say that, people would say there's like an argument that like, oh, we just need to let the virus burn through everyone and everyone should do what they want. And like, I'm not I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that I don't trust humans to be able to manage this or
Yeah.
any major global virus. Like
Right.
managing and top down, trying to control it and orchestrate how everything works for the people. Like for me, that will always cause worse outcomes than it will be bottom up, letting individuals make informed decisions on their own.
Mhm.
And, like that's just a simple mental model for me that when I look at examples throughout history and what I've seen from my life, seems
Mhm.
to be mostly true. And then
Mhm.
when I look at the COVID situation, I'm kind of like, well,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got to be careful with what I say because, people are going to fucking make these broad stroked assumptions about,
Yeah.
me just because of how I'm thinking about this whole situation. But,
Mhm.
it's a hot topic.
Yeah, it's scary what the human mind can develop because we believe we can manage certain things, but I mean, we created COVID supposedly. Humans created COVID. I mean, humans created the nuclear bomb, and it's like, and then we learned with like places in Russia, you cannot control it. Like, you can create it, but you can't control it, and that's pretty scary. That's a scary. You would have thought they would have learned that, like after creating nuclear like energy and harnessing, or not creating it, but harnessing it and creating a bomb and all that. It's like, yeah, there's just forces in nature we can't control, but we can create in a way. Um, it's
Well, this
scary to
is
think
just a
about.
natural, this is like a natural law where it's easier to attack than it is to defend.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to take something apart than it is to put something together. And that's like, I almost think that would just be like the physical law of entropy. Like it will always be easier, a million times easier to crack an egg and break it and
Mm-hmm.
fry it than it is to take the raw materials from nature and just like create an egg out of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah,
Um,
I personally like breaking things, but I can't.
yeah,
It's
I like
horrible.
breaking things productively.
Yeah, well, like anytime I get drunk, which is not a lot at all anymore. But last night I did because I went to a show, saw Swim Fan,
Oh,
and
nice.
hadn't done that in a while. Just had a couple drinks and I
They
just
perform shirtless.
no, no. But someone did yell, "Take your shirt off." um, but yeah, I just like there was a point in the night where I was just like, I want to break shit, and it's such a like common. I feel like it's such a common human,
Oh.
especially when you're intoxicated. I was just looking at the new windows in the venue, like, man, I
Oh man.
would never
Okay,
do
here's
that.
a question. Here, I want to pose the question to you because I think this is what we were saying, but just like in a simple way. So like, man, this technology tries to like have some command and control over nature,
Hmm.
like essentially exercise our will over that which we usually can't exercise our will over. Like technology makes that possible.
Hmm.
I would say,
And
I would actually argue just like a little bit more that technology like leverages energy from nature or funnels it. Not necessarily it just like takes it in raw and tries to control it, but that's like good technology or elegant technology. Usually just leverages nature, leverages force rather than tries to control it. But I think that we do get to the point of trying to control it.
Yeah, it's just like, is it, how do you decide when technology is a good and when it is an evil? Because if you just let nature run its course, there's no way that you're going to avoid disaster. There's
Mhm.
going to be disaster. Like that's
Mhm.
part of the cycle of it all.
Mhm.
So then like using technology, like you're saying, sometimes it just like in the case of like a wildfire, it just like adds to the disaster and makes it more catastrophic.
Mhm.
And we see that happening basically in every aspect of like our modern technology right now, just like
Mhm.
exacerbating the problem that it attempts to solve.
Mhm.
So like what do we do about that?
I've always kind of at least recently, I've thought that technology, um, once we started implementing our social lives, kind of social media, and just media in general, like when people start uh, putting too much of themselves into what the truth is, things get kind of, people get, it sounds shitty, but people get emotional, and it's
More,
some.
are you saying like identify, like when people like totally put their identity into an idea, or
Yeah, because then it's like you have something to lose at that point, and then you're gonna fight for it, and that may not be the right thing to do. And
Mhm.
pe- people usually are inherently kind of selfish. It takes us like will to want to not be selfish in a situation, like a relationship, a friendship, a job, like whatever. Um, Usually, people aren't gonna want to do that if they just have a little thing in their hand and like they're just consuming stuff, like that's, I mean, selfishness is kind of involved in it. And I think technology does so many good things, and it's helped so many people. I mean, cancer research, like all kinds of medical stuff, getting food and water out to people who need it, like all kinds of stuff. It does a lot of good things, but I feel like once we start including human emotion, which again sounds kind of scary to like say it like that or whatever, but I don't know. I feel like once that kind of comes into play, that's when things can start
Yeah.
getting kind of froggy in a
No, I
sense.
see that. Like, I think what you're talking about too is like this other aspect of like where people, like now it's kind of possible, even more so, to see yourself reflected back to you
Yeah,
from like, the things you interact with in the world.
yeah,
That's the most prominent example of that is like on social media. Like, it's more available and accessible to like see yourself reflected back to you. Like, whether you
right,
meet the same people who like think like you, or you can just like put exactly what you think onto the world and like you can immediately see what people say about it.
yeah,
Or and yeah, I think that puts us in a vulnerable place.
yeah. There's less. I feel like there's less individuals nowadays than there was 100 years ago, and like definitely literature. I mean, and I'm sure you know this too, Jana. Like literature speaks for that as well. I mean, so many good authors have been, you know, last 100, 200, 300, 400 years, and without technology, and because they were able to develop their ideas and their characteristics and like put them through a story or characters to convey like certain feelings and all of that. And that's definitely, I mean, that I think that was gone before any of us were born too,
Yeah.
like just with movies and media and all that. Uh, yeah,
The
I,
pursuit of like wanting to understand something that's not you.
yeah, yeah,
Like that allows you to do that.
yeah. Because then, like, even if you disagree with it, you can learn so much about yourself. Even if you disagree with something, then it's like, oh,
Right. And
I learned that I don't agree. Okay,
hmm
like, that's not good or bad. It's just a fact. And I think too many people are like trying to search for like, is this good or bad or right or wrong? Am I the good guy or the bad guy in this situation? When I mean, usually sometimes I relate with like bad guys in stories and stuff, like the classic like anti-hero, but also like actually true like bad guys that are like misunderstood or whatever. Like
Right.
you can connect with like whoever in these fictional stories, and nowadays that doesn't seem to be as popular anymore.
Yeah, because you just like, well, I kind of think of it about how, like, we're talking about truth
Mm,
is so much harder to discover. And, like, I feel like people's individual truth just, like, kind of starts with themselves. So,
mm-hmm.
like, whatever I believe or whatever I think I am or whatever I say I am is the truth. And if I don't see that reflected in my world, then, like, the world is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But you never learn more about yourself, and you might be wrong about yourself, imagine that.
Right.
And if the world isn't reflecting what you want it to reflect back at you, that usually means like you need to change something. But like we're totally resistant to that idea because it's like there's no ultimate truth, so I decide truth, and if your truth isn't my truth, then you're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I mean, all of this for me rings of truth as well, is what I was thinking about. And like to your question, Jana, I think uh, all of the solutions to all of these problems stem from truth and truth seeking individuals.
Yeah.
I think that um, collectivism can live in like certain small areas of like society and civilization, but I think it's really dangerous. And that goes against what I used to believe the solutions for like a lot of our problems just in the world and big picture are. But there's a quote I love that individuals search for truth and groups search for consensus.
Mm.
And it's like what kinds of things in the world do we want to let groups decide? And the group dynamics of how groups decide on things is just like it's old, it's time, it's the tribe.
Mm.
And tribal truth is tribal truth, tribal consensus is like often a story. It's a thing that's made up. Just, I mean, our very civilization, our large American tribe is a made up story. Um, but it's a useful one. Like it's a story where we can transcend our differences and basically align under a larger consensus that we've come to.
Mm.
That's good. That I like. I think that's a very good thing that was invented that exists. Um, but like the truth seeking from an individual, like that's how, because individuals are the agents, the units that go and they uproot the consensus to create a better consensus, or they uproot what we thought was true
Mm.
for something that is more true. And you see this like in science. Science is a great example. Science utilizes consensus in some ways, but we forget the many stories in science where individuals had to go against the consensus to show that something was true, like
Yeah.
Copernicus,
Mm-hmm.
um, or lots of Renaissance, like basically all of the
I
Renaissance
mean,
and
probably Benjamin Franklin too, right? Like inventors and all that. I mean, I'm inventors like come to mind, and just like philosophers and
Mhm.
painters and artists and writers, especially like it. And I'm kind of going through something kind of like that, where I mean, I have like all my close friends, y'all, and people I play in bands with. We all kind of like we all resonate with each other and everything, but it does get hard when you try and go out into the public and try and be an individual, and like not being able to, yeah, talk about anything. And so then I'm kind of like realizing, oh, maybe this is supposed to happen because now this means I need to just go into my hole and write it
So
all
yeah.
down, and like
Yeah.
this is how I find who I am, and like put it out there regardless of how people feel about it, like,
Yeah.
and instead of trying to connect with people like I want to, uh, sometimes just have to not, and like regard,
Yeah.
like as long as you believe it, kind of what you're saying, Jana, like you believe it, you live it, and so therefore no one can really argue with that. And especially if you put in the work to then portray it, then it's kind of like you're unfuckable with, sort of, like at that point, it's like, well, I put in all this work and doing this and like
Yeah.
expressing who I am, like at that point, all the other people have on you is their opinion, and then
Yeah.
it's what does that really matter, like.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
where I'm trying to get like to a place where like I can start to have like the conversations that I feel like need to happen,
Mhm.
where like I'm coming from a place that like I know exactly, like I did the work and
Mhm.
this is what my conclusions are.
Mhm.
But I am starting to sense that maybe that takes like a whole lifetime to
Mm.
do.
Yeah. 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 I kick myself a lot for like not writing enough or whatever. And
Hmm.
but then I like think about and I read about how long it's taken all my favorite writers to like get things done, and I'm like, whoa, I still got a
Right,
long ways to go.
right.
I feel like I'm 27 and I'm like, I'm running out of time, and then other days I'm like, oh man, I got all the time in the world.
Okay, I just want to bring up this book because what you just said. This is called The Writer's Chapbook, and all it is just like a collection of like quotes from interviews with like authors. And so like each chapter is like, well, let's see. There's different ways that like these quotes are broken up. So like uh the first one is, were you always a reader? And then you get quotes from like
Mm,
authors like answering that question. And then the second one is, when did you begin writing? And then there's like, where does your process begin?
mm.
How do you write humor? What import what do you feel about critics? So yeah, it's just like a good
Interesting.
book
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
like the opinions, because you see like exactly what you're just saying, like, oh, I'm not doing enough. And then you read people who are authors like saying the same thing.
yeah,
Oh, so this is not just me.
yeah. It's like, oh, so I'm actually doing it. I'm actually living.
Yeah, right.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
this whole time, I thought I was a fraud, and then you learn
Yeah.
like your favorite authors were also like, I'm a fraud. Like,
Yeah. I kind of go through that like weekly at this point.
yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I have a huge list of things I need to write, and it's just it grows every week, and yeah, it's it's rough out there.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, with everything we were talking about, like everything that's happening, everything that's new, it makes it harder to have that time and space to write and to think and just do those things that seems like it was easier to do 100 years ago, or that
Hmm.
people were sharper at
Hmm.
writing, people were sharper at reading than I
Hmm.
think we are
Hmm.
100 years ago. Like maybe we understand more details, more information about certain fields or about science or the world overall. Like our culture, our society has condensed some kind of wisdom, some kind of information, and transported it to us that maybe 100 years ago they didn't have. But for the most part, it feels like artistically we're less sophisticated.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. There's always counterexamples, at least in the department of reading and writing, uh, and generating like new ideas. It seems like we're really slacking behind, and it's hard to do that type of stuff. Hard to do that type of work.
I mean, I think it goes back to the whole technology, social media thing. Like just the introduction of, and I'm speaking for myself because I've got off Twitter like a month ago, and ever since then, my reading and writing is just like skyrocketed because I would just like habitually get on there and like write what I thought I was thinking, but it really wasn't. It was just like a rant or something, and like now I'm like able to like 140 characters is not enough for the human mind. And if you're using that as an outlet, like I was, and like a lot of people do, um, I think that people used to say like movies were killing like books and everything, and like I kind of
Yeah.
believe that social
Mm.
media is kind of like ruining that part of humans' brains of being able to read and write, and like express themselves and be individuals. Back then, you didn't, like 100 years ago, you didn't give a shit if the other person thought differently than you. Like, there wasn't time. Like, you were more focused on getting water and food and like uh, making your mark on the world in a very short amount of time. Um,
Yeah. I think since we have like so much information available to us all the time,
mhm.
but like it's presented to you, like there's no way to like actually transmit that like all at one time, but we're just like seeing it in like these little clips,
Mhm.
pieces of sentences, or just like article titles.
Yeah.
um and so like you're saying, I think we don't really like take that time to sink deep into something
Mhm.
to actually learn it. But to like talk about it, we can talk about it, but do we
Right.
actually know what we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like if movies are killing books, I think social media is just killing thought,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like not thought, but like like unique thought or novel thought or thinking for yourself,
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Individualism.
Yeah, because you can just absorb all of the consensus of everyone else that your group has
Mhm.
has come to.
Well, what's kind of
Um,
funny is I also think that's why the rise of communism and socialism is like becoming more popular. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't really care. I don't actually. Now that I am a little more individual, like I'm a little more of an individual, I'm finding my political stance finally. And I mean, it's anarchism. It's a branch of it, but like, so I don't necessarily think I'm not here to say communism or socialism is wrong for the U.S. or it's right. But I think that's why it's become popular is because it's easier for people just to be like, all right, tell me what to do. Like, give me an allowance. Tell me what I can and can't do, and all. This is life. Like,
And be a victim at the same time.
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I would go as far to say that I think communism and socialism in America, I am against those. Like I think those are wrong things.
I think I would say that too. I'll just
And I think that I think that the world should has given us enough feedback,
Hmm.
enough millions of dead
Yeah.
that like
Oh yeah. I mean the
we should take
CCP
that
for sure.
seriously. But you know, I agree with your sentiment totally.
Mm.
Like I think that people should genuinely hash this out,
Hmm.
and I hope that we do. And I want us to like have the freedom and the free minds to be able to do it.
Hmm.
But I feel like people aren't actually talking about these ideas, or talking about them at a very deep level.
Hmm.
It's more of just short term bouts of emotion coming out. It feels like, or like news events that have us reflect our anger or
Hmm.
reflect back that like capitalism is broken, like this is broken, like we
Hmm.
need to tear it down totally and replace it. And like that's not a very intelligent thought to me.
Hmm.
Uh, like because it provides absolutely no solution and it's not even a very good critique.
Hmm.
And but you know, like it's gonna take truly good ideas that win out
Hmm.
over other ideas. Like
Hmm.
that's what I want to happen. Like I want the craziest wild people and then the smartest and then everyone in between. I
Hmm.
want everyone's ideas to genuinely be able to be expressed and come out and to be able to compete and for the best one to be able to win out.
Hmm.
Like I think that's the best solution for most everything.
Hmm.
So can I
But
put forward maybe like a challenge to all of us because of like what we're talking about? I feel like we kind of did we did this on this podcast where we were talking about the oil,
Hmm.
the ocean burning.
Hmm.
mhm,
Like I don't really know. Like I was saying, like I don't know what that actually means. Like I don't know what this event causes
Hmm.
and what we should do about it. And I don't think any of you guys either
Hmm.
do either.
No.
So what if we like actually learned about that specific thing and like tried to understand it? Because people like us need to be trying to understand those things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what we're saying, right?
Yeah. I think
Yeah, I
so. Yeah.
agree. I agree, and I agree with your sentiment. And I think, like me and Josh, like we're actually coming out in the background. We're trying to come up with more of a structure to
Mhm.
have some due diligence on our topics
Mhm.
and like do some research and write out what we think on specific topics.
Mhm.
But even with that being said, uh, it's impossible to do your due diligence on like everything.
Yeah.
So like we're always going to be talking about stuff that we're outside of our elements for.
Mhm.
And I think that that's okay to a degree as long as everyone understands that and we
Right.
understand
Right.
like our own BS and we don't think that we actually uh, are on top of all of this.
Mhm.
But I say that as like a defense mechanism almost because like I think for a lot of people like a way of censoring thought is to say that you're not an expert, so you can't talk about this subject.
Right.
You're not an expert, so you can't talk about this subject. And it's like I think the layman's need to be able to discuss these things and hash it out
Yeah.
along with the experts and for all those ideas
Yeah.
to intermingle.
Well, and
Especially
it
It's a
because
kind
we
of
have
it's a
information.
confusing area and it's getting more confusing because of how how much the un uh just the non-experts are being louder and louder.
well, and also like who's funding the experts? Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's my thing, and that's kind of why I found myself grounded in anarchism, is because I'm tired of the tribalism in American politics and like it seeping into these scientists and experts we're supposed to believe in. It's like, okay, well, they're backed by so and so who hates so and so, and like if you're this, if you're a conservative, you're this, if you're a Democrat, you're this, and like
Or like
it's
this person got into this position because they defunded that person.
right,
So
right.
they're the only person.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of tribalism bullshit. And like
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with how America works, but I think the way that the politics are working right now is like laughable. And I mean, it is a
Yeah.
joke. It is a joke to pretty much anytime I've ever played a video game and I play with people from different countries. They're just like, "Oh, you're an American," and they just go off for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, "Yeah, I agree." Like, I don't really know what to say, just about like our
Yeah.
politics and like how everything is run and all this stuff. And it's never like facetious either. It's just kind of like they're just speaking, and it's always interesting, and I kind of enjoy it just because I agree with them a lot of the time, and I'm tired of agreeing with them though.
Hey, I mean, we're
Yeah.
the entertainment capital of the world.
Right, whether we like it or
Like,
not.
yeah, and I don't love everything he says or does, but like Elon Musk, he said the most entertaining outcome is the most likely, or no, he said the most likely outcome is the most entertaining.
Hmm.
And I think that that like is kind of coming true more and more so. Like the memes are the most powerful, like the most entertaining memes, the most entertaining ideas, the most like fiery political ideas. And they're spreading all over the world, and everyone's like got their nose in our politics now. And they think that we're just like a part of this dumb reality show.
Hmm.
And it's funny, it's kind of true. Like we are.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy reality, political entertainment surveillance experiment.
Man, reality shows are so entertaining though.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But reality shows aren't the real reality,
Yeah.
sadly, which is why they're entertaining. Reality is mostly boring.
Hmm. It scares me to think of how young the country is too, and that's another reason why I found myself in this political ideology, is just how young we are compared to everyone else. We're like 250 years old or something, 225 years old,
Yeah.
six or something. I don't know. Like,
1776, yeah,
yeah. So I mean, we're
250.
yeah,
Oh,
like and then you think of like China, and you think of all these other countries that have had like dynasties and kingdoms and like political reformations and all that, and it at first I was like, wow, like America's kind of screwed, but then I was also like, well, no, we have a lot of room to grow. We have a lot of time, but we also have a lot of time for things to fall and reform as well. I don't know what that looks like, but I think we're starting to see it turn its ugly head, unfortunately. I mean,
Sometimes I think like America is the most interesting project that has taken place on the earth.
mhm,
And it's just like when I think about that, it's like, oh yeah, it's still playing out. It's
right.
only been 200 years into this.
It was called an experiment, I think, by like the people who founded it and everything. Like it, we're all taking part of in this experiment, and
And it's like we're in this really interesting moment where we're kind of forfeiting like the opportunity that comes with this being an experiment and
mhm,
like and an experiment honestly for like freedom and independence
yeah, for everyone.
where but like right now we're at this interesting moment where like the the unfortunate effects of like that pursuit like slavery
Yeah, yeah,
are like they need to be reckoned with. We have to have an answer for that.
right. Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
just kind of like those ideas are at war and they're really important and like what are we going to do?
right.
We need to have conversations.
Yeah. But then it's
Mm.
like we can't have conversations because as soon as you say the wrong thing, it's like you're this or you're that,
Yeah.
and that yeah. I mean that's another reason. Again, I just need to like get the paper done or the essay written about anarchism so I can fully talk about it. But that's just why I keep going back to it. That's my default setting now is just not wanting to take part in something that I know that my voice isn't going to be it's
Yeah.
not going to be shit. So it's kind of like why not why try, but I want to look down a different avenue for answers because the one that I'm witnessing right now is not really providing any,
Yep.
unfortunately.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I mean, this is all those things just make me think this is an exciting time to be
Mm.
alive. Like you can at least say that it's
Yeah,
exciting,
it's not
whether you
boring.
have a more positive or negative spin on it.
Yeah.
But my like talking about breaking into your own thought and trying to find your own truth and doing that on your own. Like my life has gotten better since I really started to do that. And part of that for me was um, realizing that rationally I'm actually optimistic about things and that there's a way for me to be rationally optimistic with what I see in the world and what I've learned about what's happened and that that's like actually a choice I have and I'm happy because I used to be bought into a lot of I think a sentiment that a lot of young people have which is very pessimistic and just nihilistic and where everything is coming to an end very soon. And I'm not necessarily there anymore. I don't think that argument doesn't fully hold up for me. And and yeah, like talking about getting feedback from the world, like sometimes you get feedback and that everyone agrees with you,
Hmm.
but sometimes you get feedback from nature that just like your life is better and you're happier or whatever.
Hmm.
And like that's the type of feedback I've gotten over the
Hmm.
last few years. Like really and it just started with questioning things that I thought were true. And like that's always important. And I always want to keep that keep that in mind for myself and
Hmm.
have strong ideas and have them loosely held,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because then you can talk to other individuals, and like in an ideal country, it would be great if everyone could do that. And I kind of think that's how it was at one point, where like everyone, you didn't have to talk about who. I remember being a kid and people not talking about who the fuck they voted for,
Yeah.
and I miss that. I miss that a
Yeah.
lot because everyone was friends. Everyone
Yeah.
could get along. Like,
Dude,
eh,
this book I read recently, there was like this like scene where it was like a little kid and he just asked his dad because like everyone was talking about the election. He didn't know anything about it. He's like, "Dad, who are you gonna vote for?" And his dad like slaps his hand and he's like, "You don't ask someone who they're gonna vote for. That's a private
yeah,
citizen issue."
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It infuriates me when people are like, go vote and all this stuff. It's like, you don't have to tell us. Like, we know, we know, we know how the political party system works. But like, yeah, it's become the two clubs, you
Become
know.
a parody of itself,
Yeah,
honestly.
and it always just all this like tension. It's the reason why I hate fights too at like a show or something. It's like if you really don't like each other that much, just go outside and duke it out. And it's kind of like what I feel about for the political system we have. It's like if you guys really don't like each other, like either put up or shut up. You know, like
You gotta
either
release some tension somehow.
either do what you're saying you're gonna do, which unfortunately it seems like some kind of war, which I don't want war at all, but it's like at what point does everyone just like is everyone just all talk and zero action? Like are we always just gonna be at this psychological like warfare of just getting
Yeah,
on the media and seeing like everyone trashing each other and all this stupid drama and like you guys said, the reality show type reality. I mean, that's what it is.
yeah,
And unfortunately that's entertaining, but I can't wait for the era that it's not anymore
yeah.
if that ever happens.
Well, I mean, like you're talking about, it's always within our access. You can always just get off for a month,
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
writing, start thinking.
And I guess that is where a lot of the strong individuals that we were talking about are probably going to come from, like just
Yeah.
taking that step back and writing for themselves and
See,
Thinking
once
about
the
them.
reality show becomes so crazy and all of the candy coated everything that we're getting fed gets so sweet and overwhelming, I think people naturally reject what's given to them and they
mhm.
start to just go off on their own. And I,
Yeah.
I think more and more of that is happening. Like young people are kind of rejecting a
Yeah.
lot of the consensus and kind of just turning off and finding their own path.
Hmm.
And I think that's the best outcome.
Yeah. Stop being content farms. You know, just like being
Well,
content
we're one to
livestock.
talk.
Yeah, but we're a little different. We're
Yeah,
not jumping
we're
around
different.
for some ads.
Yeah,
We're not trying to get sponsorships and promo codes. Unless you want to, then hit us up. But
Yeah. Cigarette corporations.
yeah, yeah,
You
hit
got my
us up.
number.
We're your guys, man. We
We're trying to drop the age. 14, you should be able to smoke.
yeah.
No, but yeah, this was a very dangerous conversation.
Yeah, right.
So
For 2021.
yeah. So thanks. This was fun.
Yeah, yeah.
have more dangerous conversations. Isn't that the point?
I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
down for
I
sure.
think we're gonna keep it going.
Yeah.
We need to have that talk about anarchism.
Yeah, I'm working on I got another book that I'm adding to the research. So, I think I'm going to get one more and then I'll probably call it good and start writing after that.
Nice.
But
Sweet.
yeah.
Well, I know Jana's doing some writing about some interesting topics, so she'll
Cool.
have more to come on at some
Awesome.
point.
Yeah, yeah. Stoked to
And me,
hear
I'm not doing anything interesting, but
it.
I've got topics in my back pocket I still want to talk about. But
My my main writing project right now though isn't that interesting for like well my main writing project right now is writing a biography of my grandpa.
Oh, cool.
So that's basically just like a family
Yeah,
centric story,
that's
but I'm
cool.
also reading this book called Technology, Humanism or Nihilism.
Mm.
And it's basically like making the humanist critique of modern technology.
Oh, that's cool. I might have to check that out. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, it's there's not as many tech philosophy books as there should be.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like an important
Mhm.
area of inquiry.
Mhm. I found well, this has nothing to do with tech or anything like that, but I found a religious book that pushes humor as a way to get closer to God. Uh,
Interesting.
by Sufism. It's an Islam mystic religion or whatever, but special illumination. It's part of
Oh,
also the anarchist research I'm trying to do.
interesting.
uh, oddly enough, it like fits with that topic. Um,
Yeah.
just by like being able to laugh at yourself and laugh at how shitty life can be. That's kind of like what it teaches, and not laughing at people to be uh, demeaning, but like you know what I'm saying. Like not humor is in putting people down, but just being able to laugh at everything
Yeah.
is almost
Yeah.
freeing, and you kind of like are as the memes say, you're ungovernable at that point. Like nothing can really like phase you, you know,
Yeah.
because you're just gonna laugh about it anyways and move on. That's the point.
Yeah.
And
Just
totally
like
different topic,
seeing,
but
seeing like the absurdity of like the situation.
yeah, yeah. Instead of,
Yeah,
I mean, you're
Good
not
thing to
gonna,
have.
you can't control it by freaking out, and you can't control it by laughing at it either. But at least you can have a good time while it's happening, and it might prolong your life.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is pretty absurd if you look at it in a
Hmm.
certain way or look at it close enough.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if we had the secrets that God or whatever spiritual power, or even if there isn't one, if we knew the power of the universe and we knew the truth, the real truth of like everything, I think we would just weep all the time. Like we wouldn't like know how to deal with it, you know.
I
And
think that's yeah. I think that's
we get snippets of it when horrible things happen. Nature
right.
takes its course, and like you get that snippet of like reality. What are you gonna do? It's better to learn to laugh, not making fun of it, but just I don't know, figuring out some way to make light of it. I don't know.
Totally. I think if we all knew the truth, I think we would laugh instead.
Really?
I think we would constantly laugh. Yeah.
Hopefully.
No, I wouldn't.
Or we'd switch between laughing and weeping.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
I'd probably
That's
just
about what
stress
life
eat.
falls into.
I think I'd eat honey buns a lot if I knew the truth. I would just be like, "Well, this fuck this." Like,
Yeah. Oreos.
yeah, yeah.
Jeez.
Damn, I just bought a thing of peanut butter Oreos, and I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna make this treat last." Didn't did not last. I ate the whole pack in a very short amount of time.
That's the classic, man.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing like
Well,
milk and cookies, bro.
yeah. That's a good way to end this conversation.
Yeah.
Probably been mostly a little toxic, but yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks, y'all.